In this class, we'll be looking at tangency, just as you can see on the screen. Okay, now if you look at that shape very well, that diagram very well, you will see that there is a circle here, like we have two circles there, and two circles there. So let's start. To start, we need to draw a straight horizontal line. Let's try to draw a straight horizontal line. Now, from this line, you will see that there's a circle here, there's a circle here, and there's another circle here. So from the middle of this circle to the middle of this circle, there is a distance given. There is a distance given 32 and 40 below it. Okay, now let's try to pick a point in this part. From this part, let's try to pick a point from this part. Let's assume I pick this point. Okay, now from this point, now take it to be the middle of these two circles at the left here. So from this point to this point, when you add them together, 32 plus 40, that will be what? That will be 72. So let's measure 72 millimeters. 72 millimeter. This is 72. This is 72 millimeters. Okay. Okay, that is 72 millimeters. Then let's measure 32 left, 40 right. So let me measure 40 here. So this is 40, then the remaining one should be 32. Perfectly. So here is 32, here is 32, while here is what? Here is 40. All right. Then you will see that along this line, there is a straight line that went up like this. A straight line that went up like this. So let's draw that line with our using our set square. Okay. Let's use our set square to draw the line. Then from that line, you will see that the distance from here to the midpoint of the two circles here, the midpoints here, the distance from here to that midpoint was given to be 60 millimeter. You see the dimension around here, 60 millimeter. So let's measure 60 millimeter. So from here to here is 60 millimeter. This is 60 millimeter. All right, let's draw those circles. Then the circles here, you will see that there are two circles. The bigger circle has a diameter of 25, while the smaller circle has a diameter of what? 15. So the same dimension here, the same dimension we give to the circles here, the same dimension we also apply here. Okay, so let's measure. If the diameter is 25 millimeter, the bigger circle, then the radius should be what? The radius should be 12.5. So let's measure 12.5 from our ruler. 12.5 millimeter. 12.5 millimeter. Okay, so place it here. So all right, same dimension, put it here, because the two circles has the same measurement. All right, why the smaller circle has a diameter of 15 millimeters, so which means the radius should be 7.5 millimeter. So that will be 7.5 millimeters. So let me use this, near 7.5 millimeters. This is 5, 6, 7. So 7.5 millimeter will be here. Okay. Place it here. All right. Place it here. Okay. Now, the circle here, the two circles we have here, one has a diameter. You can see the diameter is 50 millimeter. So the radius will be what? 25 millimeter. So that will be 25 millimeter. So you measure 25 millimeters there. 25 millimeters, when you convert it to centimeter, that is 2.5 centimeter. To place it here. Okay. Why the smaller circle has a diameter of 32. So the radius will be what? 16 millimeter. So measure 16 millimeter. 60 millimeters, that is 1.6 centimeter. When you convert it to centimeter, from millimeter to centimeter, that is 1.6 centimeter. Place it here. Okay. Then you will see that there's an arc here. There's an arc here. There's another arc here. So let's try to get it one after the other. So the arc here has a radius. You can see R70, a radius of 70. That is 70 millimeter. So, but I need to show you something secret here, as I've said. Let me show you something. You know that arc? Let's assume that I'm to make that arc a complete circle. Assume that I'm to make it a complete circle. Can you see? You will see that if I'm to locate the midpoint of that arc, I will need to, the midpoint of that arc now, you know, the midpoint from here to any tangency, you know, the radius is 70. That is, from here to here should be 70. From here to here should be 70. From here to here should be 70. But now, I want to get this point, this midpoint. This is not the actual point. I'm just using this one as an example. So if I'm to get that point, how am I going to do it? Now, if I'm to use these 2 points, if I'm to bisect a particular place here to get the point, and I'm to place my compass here, mark an arc, place my compass here, mark an arc, I will not measure 70. Why? Because if I'm to come here from here to here, and you know that from here to this circle himself, to any point in the circle here, in the circumference of the circle, is 70 millimeter. So what if I'm to now add this from here to here, join? Because if I'm to place my compass here and mark it, place my compass here and mark it, the distance, if I'm to move from here now to here, it will be more than 70, because the from here to here before is 70. So I'm to add the distance from here to here again. That is, I'm to add the radius of this bigger circle, and I'm to add the radius of this what? Bigger circle. So if I'm using here now to come to this place to bisect an arc, I will add the radius of this bigger circle plus the radius of this circle, this arc here. So that will be 70 plus the radius of this. I will bisect the arc. So if I'm to come from here to here again, the radius from here to here plus from here to here, the radius of this arc here himself is 70 from here to here, and then the radius of this circle, I will then add them together to bisect it. So let's start from here. The radius of this bigger circle now here, the radius was given to be, because the diameter is 50 millimeter, so the radius will be what? 25. The radius will be what? 25. So that will be 25 plus, now what is the radius of the arc? The arc here, the radius was given to be 70. So that will be 70 plus 25. That will be what? That will be equals to 95. So if I'm to come like this, I will place my compass. I will measure 95. I will measure 95. As I've said, this is not the actual point. I'm just using this one to explain to you how an external circle, because it is an external circle, not internal. It is an external, it is outside. That is how it is. These are the secrets that you don't know. Some people will just add it and they will not tell you how it's the reason why they add them together. You understand? So that is what I'm show you the reason why we add them together. Why, if it is internal, you subtract. if the circle comes in like this, you subtract. But if the circle is external or external, if it is external like this, you add. If it is external, you add. But if it is internal, like the one that is come here now, is internal, because if you complete it, it will form inside the air. So that one is internal, we will subtract, not add. But if it is external, the reason why we add, that was the reason why I showed you that if it is external from here to any point in that line is 70, then from here to here you add the join. So that is the reason why we do what? We add. Okay. So measure, if I should measure the 95 now, you see this is 95, confirm it. Let's confirm that. So 95, place it here. Mark an arc. Let me erase this so you not get confused. Okay. Okay. Then if I'm to come from here like this, that will be 70 plus the radius of this circle. So the radius of this, that will be 70 plus the radius of this bigger circle here. The radius, that if the dimension, the diameter is 25 millimeter. If the diameter is 25 millimeters, and you know, if you divide 25 by 2, that will be 12.5. Okay. So the radius will be what? The radius is 12.5, right? So 12.5 plus 17 plus 70 millimeters. That is 12.5 plus 70 millimeters. That will be what? That will be 82.5 millimeters. So I will measure 82.5 millimeters on my using my compass. I will measure 82.5. Place it here. Mark. Now you see where they join now. It's now the midpoint of the external circle. It's now the what? The midpoint of the external what? Circle. So let's erase this. So from here now, which is the midpoint of the external circle. So from here to the any circumference in the circle, from here now, I will then measure the radius of 70. Mark the arc here, like to mark the arc here, So let's measure a radius of 70 millimeter. 70 millimeter. To place it here. Oh. Okay, that is for that. Then to get this now, you know, this is like the opposite of this. This is external. Okay, why this is what? Internal. So, you know, in external you add, but in internal now you do what? You add to the radius of the external, right? But here now you will subtract in this aspect. You will then do what? You will subtract. So if I'm to use these two circles now, because it is in between here, it is in between this and this. It is in between this and this. The arc is in between this and this. So I'm to use the radius of these two. Then this time around, I'm not going to add. I will do what? I will subtract. Okay, because it is internal. So now the radius of the arc here, the radius of the arc was given to be 105. You see it somewhere around there, 105. Then I will have to subtract the radius of this circle and the radius of this circle. If I subtract the radius of this circle from 105, I will place it here, mark and arc. Subtract this one from which is the same thing as the radius of this. Subtract 12.5, which is the radius of this, from 105. I will place it here, mark an arc. Where did they join now? I will then measure 105, then construct that arc. So now subtracting the radius of the two of them have the same radius. So subtracting the radius, which is 12.5 from 105. 12.5 from 105. 105 minus 12.5, that would be 92.5. 92.5. So I will measure 92.5. Measure 92.5 from here. .5. So place it here. Mark an arc. Please take note of that arc. So place it here. Since both of them have the same radius, mark another arc. Now take note of where they join here. Both of them joined at this point. At this point. So from that point, I will measure 105. Then mark the arc here. Construct the arc here. Okay. So let's measure 105, which is the radius of the arc himself. 105 millimeter. So this 100. This 10 here in centimeter is something as 100 millimeters. So 105 will be here. Then join them together. So join them together. Okay. Okay. Let me erase this. Now we have gotten this arc. We have gotten this arc. The last thing is this arc. There's an arc here. There's an arc of radius here, and there's a line, a straight line down like this. So let's try to rule a straight line along the midpoint of this circle. Let's try to rule a straight line first. So let's rule a straight line. So from this, you see that there's a straight line that came down like this. A straight line came down like this. So let's draw that line first. Let's draw that line. Put it at the circumference here. All right. Then you will see that there's an arc here. So the radius of that arc was given to be 16 millimeters. Okay. So I will measure 16 along this line. Draw another line first. I will measure 16 along this line. Draw another line first. So let's do that. Now, I will need to draw this 16 line. I will need to draw it down. So let's draw it down like this. Let's try to draw it down. Now, you see that the arc here, is it an external arc or internal arc? The arc is an external. Why? Because if you make it a complete circle, it will form the circle outside this. So it is an external circle. What did I told you? Remember what I told you about an external circle here? That whenever you are drawing an external, I want to get the midpoint. So you will do what? You add the radius of that external circle with the radius of the circle here. So the arc for this one now, is join this and this together. So I add the radius of this with the radius of the arc. Mark an arc here. Radius of this plus radius of the arc. Mark another arc. So likewise, this I'm going to add the radius of this circle here, this bigger one, plus the radius of the arc himself, plus the radius of the arc. That is, the radius of the arc himself is 16, and plus the radius of this bigger circle here. The radius is 12.5. So 16 plus 12.5. That will give us what? That will give us 28.5. So I will measure 28.5 from I'll measure 28.5. Then place it here, mark an arc here. Now, from that point now serve as the midpoint of the external arc, that is the circle. You know, we're not going to draw the full circle, but so it serves as the midpoint, that is the radius. So from that point now, I will then measure the radius. That is, the radius is 60 millimeter. I'll then measure 60 millimeter. I'll measure 60 millimeter, then mark the arc here. Mark the arc. So let's measure 60 millimeter. Place it here. Then mark the arc. Now you can then make your work bold. You can make it bold. You can make the circle bold and some other parts bold. You can erase this one. We don't need it again. So you can make it bold. Don't forget to do your dimension as well. Please, if you find this video helpful, please consider to subscribe, consider to like, comment, and share with your friends. As you do that, this will drive us to do more videos on technical drawing. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like. See you in my next video.